our listeners who aren't familiar with what's been going on in Niger, let's talk about that ultimatum that you were just mentioning there, the group of regional leaders known as ECOWAS, who essentially issued an ultimatum to the military junta in Niger, who've seized power, saying to them, restore the democratically elected president or there will be consequences. Tell us more about this ultimatum and, of course, the deadline, which has now passed.
The ultimatum came at a time where there was uncertainty, really, if this junta was seriously planning to keep power or if this was some sort of tool to leverage power against Bazoum. The man who orchestrated the coup, Omar Tishani, that's what he's known as, but his name is General Abdurrahman Tishani, is the head of his presidential guard. So has been in close relation with him for during his presidency, which started in 2022. So, 2021, sorry. So that idea that there was a purely personal clash between the two of them that has escalated to the point where a regional bloc has to intervene was quite shocking for people. Even at the beginning of the coup, everyone was kind of waiting to see if this was a genuine coup or if it was a coup attempt. There have been several coup attempts in the past that actually General Abdurrahman Tishani's been involved in, including in 2015. And people found it hard to believe that this really was going to take hold. But once ECOWAS made this threat of possible military intervention with the support of Côte d'Ivoire, Senegal, other countries, obviously the support of France, the US has also been quite silent, but there's been a general consensus that this coup is not accepted by the Western community. There was people expected maybe that there would be a recension, that the junta would take a step back, rethink their decisions, but they've just doubled down. And what they've done effectively is call ECOWAS's bluff, because the deadline has passed. And ECOWAS has just put out a statement saying that they're going to hold another meeting later on in the week. So haven't actually shown any indication of them following through on what they've threatened.
And in response to that deadline passing as well, and that threat essentially from ECOWAS, these regional leaders, that there would be consequences, the military junta has closed the airspace over Niger. Why have they done that? And could this up the ante, Yousra?
Yeah, they've closed the airspace, they've said, in anticipation for any possible military intervention. What that's done is really disrupt the region. The airspace, Niger is in the heart of Central Africa. Loads of airlines use Nigerian airspace to move around and even to get to Europe. And that's been completely shut down. And they have said that they will respond to any incursions in their airspace with sort of an aggressive reaction. So they've shown that they're very serious about this, that they are willing to confront any military intervention. And that, again, is a continuous calling of the bluff, so to speak. And other than that, they faced ECOWAS sanctions over the last week. Niger receives a lot of their electricity from Nigeria, and these sanctions have meant that there are power cuts of up to 10 hours a day. Food prices are soaring really rapidly. The basic foodstuffs like pasta, cooking oil are now 60% more expensive. So they're showing that they are planning to fully carry out this coup, that they're willing to face the consequences of this coup, and that they will also put measures in place to prepare themselves for any intervention militarily that comes from ECOWAS or any other global force that is not happy with what they've done.
And in light of that background that you've just painted there, Niger was essentially a beacon of democracy in an area of Africa that has a lot of military governments, a lot of military leadership. It just paint the picture for us in terms of Niger's position and the background in the region until now.
Yeah, Niger has been critical for counterterrorism efforts in the region. It's been a major partner for Western governments, for the French, for the US, who've been wanting to fight jihadist activity in the region. And we've seen in Mali, which also has its own counterinsurgency, in Burkina Faso, actually post-coup, jihadist attacks went up. Mali, which has sought Wagner's support, Russia's support in fighting the counterinsurgency, hasn't been effective in actually quelling the jihadist violence that has come in the wake of the coup.
We've talked a lot about the Wagner mercenary group and their role in Ukraine, Yousra, but they also have a lot of activity in Africa. Could we see this Russian mercenary group becoming involved in Niger now to fill this vacuum?
Definitely. I mean, we can definitely see Wagner step in to fill the vacuum. This is exactly right up Wagner's alley. And I think it speaks to the fact that, you know, they exploit existing fractures and fragmentation in a country. They kind of come in when the damage is already done and there is a power vacuum and there is room to create a role. We've seen that with Mali, we've seen that with Burkina Faso, and I think this is just the perfect example of a new market for Wagner. We saw in some of the protests supporters waving the Russian flag. I mean, in the past in Mali, Russian flags have been handed out to protesters, so it doesn't really necessarily feel like an organic move to Russia. But again, I think that anti-Western sentiment, anti-imperialist sentiment does very easily translate into better we go to the other side, better we support Russia. And it just goes to show how polarized the continent is in terms of the West and Russia, and how easy it is for Wagner to just slip in and fill the cracks.